Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the two newest weapons added in Helldivers 2, the Stoker and the Sweeper, which you can find the Stoker in the recent Warbond, the Entrenched Division, but if you want this new shoddy, you'll have to find it in the Superstore for 400 super credits. The Superstore rotates often, so if you miss the initial purchase, you'll have to wait for the next round. And to be honest, I have no idea when it's coming back, so don't ask in the comments, I don't know. So let's start off with the Stoker. This is a weapon that combines both beefy punches in close ranges and the power of flames. It feels like someone took the Defender, slapped the crisper on it, basically. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this submachine gun. Like, it shoots like donkey slow, which is good for accuracy, but man, it feels weird, and I'm just not a fan of that whole slow SMG category of weapons, because when I think of an SMG, I think of Tommy gun! I don't think of this. However, the Flamer does make me feel better about the lack of chaff clearing, but I won't let my emotions at all affect me in this review of this weapon, even if it is super slow. So, let's take a look at the damage stats. The Stoker has a damage output of 130, with a durable damage of 30, with the starting mag having a capacity of 45, a recoil of 9, and it has a fire rate of 420. Toxidiver, why is your eyes red? Weed. Taking a look at the weapon's attachments, we can find that slapping on any of the optics make this weapon look like it's a gun right out of Call of Duty Vanguard. Like, seriously, what the fuck am I looking at? I'm just saying, it makes Godric the Grafted look symmetrical. For the muzzles, we have two options. However, it does have 3 different magazines we can attach, with the drum magazine being the last unlock for this gun, at level 24. Of course, this weapon's going to be very similar to the SMG that's been in the game since forever, the Defender. So the Stoker does a little bit more damage than the Defender counterpart without going over the reprimand. But the real meat of this weapon is the Flamer that is attached to the bottom, fire stored in the balls, which you get like 4 total tanks. They all have a capacity of 50, and this is what gives the SMG its boost in the overall chaff control capabilities, letting you throw bullets downrange at enemies to pepper spraying anybody who gets too close. And since all flames have higher penetration values at 4, it means they can actually punch a bit higher than its weight class, being able to roast smaller heavy units in the field, with it being a notably good counter to Hulk legs. But if you hate changing between the flames and bullets, there is an option to make it easy to shift between firing modes. Going into your settings, you can set up a quick menu button and choose the left option, as that lets you seamlessly swap between firing modes. Easy for us PC players, but good luck to the console players who don't have a controller with 50 buttons. Well, let's talk about this weapon's weaknesses. For one, it's an SMG, has a high amount of drag, so extended range combat is not really this weapon's specialty, but it has the trade-off of being an absolute beast within mid-range and under. Its slow fire rate also requires you to do a bit more precise shots to do the max amount of damage to specific parts of enemies. But let's start talking about how it fares on every enemy front, as this weapon has tons of flexibility, which each faction has you using one part of the gun more than the other. Like, the bots will make you use the bullets more than the Flamer, just due to the endless amount of firefights you'll end up in. Bots be here, bots be there, bots be everywhere! Being able to one-shot a lot of the enemy units like troopers, or even if you're close enough to Devastators, you can one-shot them in the head. But if you're aiming for segments like the abdomen, you will be able to punch through these bots really easily. Relying on the fire to tick away at enemies that can barrage you instantly isn't ideal, but with the punching power this gun has, you can really easily cripple Hulks with just the flames alone, and if you aim for the other leg, you can even kill them. Don't do it to the War Striders. Their legs have way more health that you'll have to chainsaw through, but it's still possible to kill them. Next up, we have the Bugs, where the Stoker nuts its flames across the roster of chaff, being one of the battlefronts where it's a good option to open up with the fire first before using the gun's main ammo, because with that recent buff to flames, it makes the SMG's fire a great way for pushing off the lighter chaff units from beating on, even being a great counter to those occasional Alpha Commander spawns. But even if you're not using the flames of this weapon, the bullets itself can still punch pretty good, but its counter chaff abilities are specifically attached to the Flamer. Otherwise, you risk being swarmed. Going up against heavier units, it can kill a Charger within a few 2 tanks, but you can't leg it like you can kill a Hulk due to its bigger health pool. But if you got the fuel to spend it, it's a great counter for those heavy units that are bothering you. What the fuck is happening? He's just flying away! Going up against the Illuminate, I'd say that there's more balance between using the 2 firing modes, as Voteless stand no chance against this Flamer's capabilities, letting you punch holes in their massive swarms. And whether you're using the flame mode or the bullets for this gun, you can take down Overseers with no problem. One of the more notable abilities is that the Flamer can shred a good portion of the flesh mob's health, with it being able to put them down with a few rounds from the bullets just a little bit after. I would like to note, against the new units like the Obtruder, it can be a little slow to kill them, because good luck catching the rest as they all spawn in.
Onion delivery!
Where do you all keep coming from?
Onion delivery!
If you have the gear to counter the arc of a harvester, you can also utilize the flame damage to counter them, but this requires arc resist or learn what it's like to be a new lightning rod. Let's talk about faction playstyles. For the bots, I found myself using things like ballistic shield to help keep me safe when I want to utilize some of that fire damage output to melt the bots into a slag without becoming a part of it. I would also recommend any kind of defensive armor that helps reduce the damage, whether it's my favorite passive extra padding or the newest Warbond's walking tank. It's a suitable primary to rocket in mid-range, but I find myself rarely using the flamer on this front, since being on fire doesn't mean the bots won't shoot at you. It's just the direct flame that only stops them, as it adds that bit of confusion. So expect to use more bullet here. On the bug front, my loadouts are a bit more versatile, letting me focus more on dealing with heavy units with either AT stratagems or reds, but the Stoker's flame damage allows me to burn through all the chaff ranks. But this opens up my secondary slot to something more specialized, like the stim gun for support or evil stim gun for violence. Or the more obvious answer, the ultimatum. When it comes to armor options, you could be a bit more flexible here, but I like wearing the acid resist from the Killzone Warbond since it helps me tank a bit more of that bile bugs while they pop underneath my feet. Then with the Illuminate similar to the bugs loadout, I prioritize focusing more on countering heavier units since it takes a stroke to burn voteless, but I like to bring a secondary like the Loyalist, which can do some good stagger damage against things like Overseers, ensuring that I avoid the melee nonsense of the Q-tip Overseer. Like nothing says more fun than endless melee loop. Like come on Arrowhead, this melee and the flesh mobs lining up their atoms perfectly to face through everything is why I hate the Illuminate. But this primary lets me either focus on countering harvesters and flesh mobs, or I could bring more fire like a true arsonist. But up against the newest Illuminate faction of enemies, I would recommend you bring something other than the Stoker, because the gun is just so slow to keep up with enemy units like the Obtruder on a D10, and it feels like fire is overall less effective on these floating drones. Personally, I gotta say it's great on bugs and squids, but I gotta say it's feeling like a weaker option for me on the bots. But it's a solid SMG. Most of its identity is just being the defender being glued to a crisper. But before we continue, here's a brief ad from our sponsor.
The car crash ejection challenge! Buckle your seatbelts because this Saturday at the Dave & Buster's parking lot, you'll be flying for a cash prize! How do I compete?
So let's move on to the next weapon, the Sweeper Shotgun. Everyone and their mother's been talking about this gun. This is the shotgun that I think everyone was hoping the M90A could have been. I mean, look at it. They're both pump action shotguns that don't look like a Nerf gun. And you can't forget that it is medium pen. It's a pretty good looking shotty with a big old knife at the end, enhancing some of that fantasy of defending your hole. My personal opinion on the shotgun is that I like it, but with how many shotguns we've been receiving as of late, I can very easily say that it's enough shotguns, Arrowhead. Marksman rifle starving for another weapon option. Otherwise, I think it's neat. Doesn't make me go like, whoa, shotgun! The Double Freedom already did that to me. Let's take a look at the shotgun stats. Rocks a damage of 504, with specifically each pellet doing 42 with a durable of 11. Has a capacity of 7, recoil of 76, and it has a fire rate of 150. It's a round reload, and its bayonet has a damage of 165 with a durable of 85. Looking at the attachments, I gotta say, it gives me a similar looking vibe to the Stoker's Cursed Vanguard Call of Duty look, but it has a 4x scope on it, all the scythe users recoiling in pain. But the more important attachment to this shotgun is going to be the choke variants, going from no choke, to half choke, to full choke, and to choke my and the duckbill muzzle. The full choke is going to be the greatest option for just splattering bigger units like devs or alpha commanders, while the duckbill muzzle excels in saturating the area, countering smaller chaff units. I gotta say though, I'm not really a fan of this one. The thing that makes this shotgun stand out among the rest is its rapid fire ability, allowing you to slam fire this baby to any enemy that gets way too close. But even if you're mid-reload, this shotgun's big ol' murder knife is a good response to those in liberating distance. Talking about weaknesses, this shotgun doesn't come without its flaws. Like the rest of video game shotguns, the Sweeper suffers from being less effective at longer ranges, even with the full choke. There's damage fall off and natural spread of these rounds, which isn't unusual for this type of weapon, but paired with its durable damage, firing at enemies with matching penetration at range may consume more ammo than an alcoholic resisting arrest with the female officer. And for those of you who can't remember how much ammo you have, this round reload can be a bit difficult to manage, especially if you had so much fun pumping the rounds out. But we got a few armors that can help negate this skill issue. Unlike the rest of the shotguns in its pump action family, this one has no stagger, which means some close quarter engagements require you to lock down those enemy units before they can beat on, like Stalkers and Overseers. But starting on the bot front, let's see how it performs. Being a beautiful counter to all the chaff units like devs can be killed at point blank ranges with 2 shots, and that's at the chest. But at extended ranges, you'll be either focusing on closing the distance to blast devs or pepper them until they drop. But enemy units like Scout Striders, Bot Troopers, or Berserkers will close in the distance themselves, letting me play the game one-handed. Then we can move on to the bug front, where the range isn't the problem, because most of them walk right into the flechettes. And this shotgun excels on something like the bug front, since their lack of armored units means you'll see less of that pesky white hit marker, blasting all the little buggies away with a simple click, with only bile spears really posing a threat, if you can't see their head at least. Otherwise, it's going to absolutely bully this front. Oh my god, what the fuck was that, Bruker Better? Why do you fly like that? But against those high durable parts like charger ass, it might take a bit, and it's not really a good option for it, unless you have like some way to hold them still. Against the Illuminate, I like it, but the dense amounts of Voteless makes me prefer using it with a duckbill muzzle option. But at that point, I think I was wishing I had Breaker Spray with elevated Overseers being the most annoying to fight with any shotgun, you know, since they dance between your effective range. And flesh mobs aren't really a good matchup for this shotgun, but it isn't surprising since most weapons struggle with this fat fucking tank, taking around 14 shots depending on the range. And going up against a massive swarm of obtruders, I just swapped over to using my stalwart because there was no way I was going to kill all these fuckers. So let's go in depth a bit more about playstyles. Going back to the bots, I prefer to play more defensively. I also prefer to wear more armored gear in these engagements so I can face off with the shrouds of gunfire and explosives, but shield gen pack can allow you to be pretty aggressive. Playing as a more defensive role on the bot front, you will have to keep in mind there are slower units like the Devastators, so unless they're being gaslit by an agitator, they will move like a crippled snail and often take a while to get in your shotgun's effective radius. So starting the engagements at a closer proximity is my kind of ideal, especially when I get to watch the oil spill from their servos! On the bug front, I can play a bit more aggressively, taking the armor from the Servants of Freedom Warbond for that extra melee damage and the fast reload speed, helping your shotgun reload faster and allowing you to get a bit more punch for your melee. If you're playing on a higher difficulty, I would bring a proper chaff clearing weapon to help compensate for your shotgun's slow punching power, but since it's a primary that's good at its job, pacifier, we have plenty of options for covering chaff. Otherwise, it's pretty damn good. Moving on to the Illuminate, this is the front where I'm really not as big on using this gun, since there's a weird mix of enemies on this front. Voteless swarms being thick can lead to this shotgun getting overwhelmed, and even when I took the duckbill to saturate the horde with pellets, it didn't really help, and it meant that I would be less effective at taking out enemy units like Overseers at extended ranges. Both flesh mobs and elevated Overseers in high numbers prove to be a threat to this weapon. I like to bring the warrant to counter these elevated Overseers, and I like to use my support weapon to always counter flesh mobs. I guess there just wasn't enough armored enemies to really warrant bringing this shotgun, and the only ones that I really felt are worth using it on are Overseers. But overall, all jokes aside, I really do enjoy these weapons from this war. Both of them are pretty damn viable in their own areas, and they don't feel like they overstep their boundaries in other weapons. But that's just my personal thoughts on this weapon. What do you guys personally think about it? But that is the end of my video. I will see you guys next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.